Every day of my shluchus, I think about him. I think how much I wish I would be able to call him and he would give me his encouragement. But I always know exactly what he would tell me. Go find another Jew. Go put on another tefillin. Go ask the guy for more money. Build a bigger building. These are the things he wanted, and these are the things that he believed in. He would always encourage us to do that. Thankfully, we have family and friends and brothers and siblings that help encourage. So I'm not lacking in that encouragement, but in many ways I miss that I actually had him giving me that encouragement. We have with us tonight my uncle Neach Kosovsky, who is a shliach in Springfield, to please share with us something.
Thank you. So, your father, Zalman's interest in Springfield, in the shlichus in Springfield, of course, began with Zadie and Bubby. The fact that they were on shlichus there since 1950. And of course, your father took a very big interest in what was going on, was very involved, and of course, supportive. My introduction into your family was through, of course, my wife, and doesn't go back as far as Yankel Goldstein. But we got engaged on Yud Aleph Tammuz, which was Friday, and that Friday night, where were we invited to eat? Shabbos Suda, of course, by Zalman and Cyril. My in-laws were there as well, my future in-laws. And sitting there at that Shabbos table and watching what was going on was a real eye-opener. This is something we heard about. It's kind of bringing the involvement, the warmth, but to actually see it and to now marry into this family, be part of it, was really, really special. And one of the things that became very apparent is that the way Zalman lived, the way he talked and interacted with people, he never told people what they should be doing. He never gave them his advice, of course, unless they asked for it. But what was it? He just lived a certain way. He acted a certain way. And just by being who he was, people automatically wanted to emulate him. They wanted to be like him. And that was the biggest way, the best way to influence people. And that is something that I learned from. I nowhere near what he was able to do, but it's a goal that I realize the way we live, and what I tell my children is the same thing. The way you live and the way you act, we have to act in such a way that people should want to emulate us and be like us. And it's a tall order. Zalman made it look simple. Many of you have heard stories, of course, in the book that was printed about Zalman's life. There's many stories. There's a story that I'm not sure is in the book. It's about a person that's probably not mentioned in the book, although the brother of this person is mentioned extensively. And that is Jeffrey Kimball, the Gabbai of the Beis Medrash Lubavitch in Longmeadow, Massachusetts. He had a very close relationship with Zalman. But not too many people know that Jeffrey Reuben David Kimball has a brother. His brother's about 5 years younger, Gedalia Clayton. He's a lawyer. He was never married. And if you come to our shul, he's kind of unnoticeable. He's in the corner, he's in the front, he's in the back. He doesn't really talk that much. And this story is his observation of Zalman. One time, Zalman and Cyril came for Shabbos. They enjoyed coming. And of course, Zalman would sit in Fabring after the davening. And Clayton tells me, I remember this Fabringen, but Clayton said he was totally struck by the fact, what was Zalman Fabringen about? Here's Zalman who's living as a chassid. He's a pnimi. He did what had to get done. No fanfare. He was who he was, and that's what made him so special. That's why people learn from him. What did he say? He says he sees Zalman sitting, and he's bringing, and he's talking about a letter, a public letter, a communal letter that the Rebbe sent out, a Michtav Klali. And in this letter, it says something about you have to do more. So Clayton says to me, I don't get it. Here's Zalman Deitch. He's Zalman Deitch. He's a guy that learns. He's a guy that's friendly. He's a guy that does so much for the Rebbe. And what's he bringing about? He was upset with himself. Zalman was upset with himself that he wasn't doing enough. Imagine that. So Clayton, who we don't hear too much about, but his observation from a so-called simple Jew, although I don't think he's so simple, from a so-called simple Jew, he left such an impression on him. If Zalman feels he's not doing enough, where are all the rest of us? So people have been talking tonight about living by the way he taught us, living with what was important to Zalman. That's the way we go forward. That's the way we have simcha. So I guess that's the question. If Zalman felt that he wasn't doing enough, where are all the rest of us? So Mitzvah Hashem, we should take the strength, take the encouragement, do something extra, do something special. We should all find one more way that we live like Zalman lived and be a better Dugma Chaya, a better role model for others.
There's one more aspect of my relationship with my father I want to share with everybody, and this will sum up the balance of the life in a very small way of what my father lived. We mentioned a little bit about how he was a chassid, we mentioned how he was a businessman, and the most important part we always save for the last, and that is the family life. As much as he was a public figure, very involved in the community, very involved in local moistus and moistus, the Rebbe's moistus, the Rebbe's mifsaims, he was even much involved in his family and very much in us siblings spending time with each other, respecting each other, helping each other out. And he didn't just encourage us to do this and sit on the side, but he actually played a very, very strong role in spending a lot of quality time with us. Just to share a few of the things, I was honored to be put to sleep by my father for many, many, many years. He would read us stories, put us to bed, and these are things, I don't know if every child gets this from their father. I try to give this to my children because this is something I got, and I treasured it. I always thought it was one of the amazing things that I got with him. This is when I was younger. When I was older, he treated me like I was older, and he would learn with me, he would tell me stories. When I wasn't in such a good mood, he would tell me different things about the Rebbe, and he would spend time with me. There was never a time when I needed attention from him and he was too busy learning or too busy doing other stuff. He always found time for that. And another thing was that as much as he was a person that never liked to travel, he always traveled, and he included us in his traveling a lot. And in the summer, he would take us different places. We never went to the country, but we had opportunities to go on different family trips. And when we went on those trips, he was very much with us on those trips and reading. He read in the museum, everything that's there to read, he would read. We would sit and wait for him to finish reading, and then he would explain to us why it was so interesting and what was so special about it. As a child, we didn't really appreciate it so much, but now that I'm a father of my own, I learned to really appreciate this and to appreciate family and see how important these things are. I want to call my older brother Chessi, who is a brother that's very close to me, close in age, and thank you for being my older brother. I had the tremendous chus to spend a lot of time with my father, especially in the later years. And I became his chavrusa. I would learn with him on a regular basis. In one of the last sichas that I learned with him was the sicha from Parshas Pinchas, which speaks about how the Haraya Pinchas b'chalim Pella Nasaloi. If someone sees Pinchas in their dream, he'll have a wonder will happen to them. And the Medrash continues, Haraya Pil b'chalim Pile Pilim Pile Plois. If you see an elephant, you'll have multiple wonders, and if you see multiple elephants in your dream, even more wonders. And the Rebbe explains this whole this Gemara, and so it says because Pinchas had miracles in his life, therefore if you see Pinchas, you'll also have miracles in your life. And the Rebbe explains the difference between a nes and a pella. Why does the Gemara say a pella, a wonder, over a miracle? It says that he had miracles in his life, but yet we're saying that a pella will happen, you'll have a wonder to you. So, and another question that Rebbe asks is why only one wonder, whereas if you see elephants, you'll have multiple wonders? So the Rebbe explains the difference between a nes and a pella is that a nes is something which is in nature, whereas a pella is beyond nature. And Pinchas lived a life that was totally beyond nature. It was one pella. His whole life was one pella. It was total Mesiras Nefesh given over to the Eibishter. And the Rebbe brings ties it to connects it to Yud Beis Tammuz, to the Frierdiker Rebbe, which lived a life which was total Mesiras Nefesh. So I was thinking about this sikha that we learned, and I related to my father that he lived a life that was totally Ibergegeben to the Rebbe, totally devoted to the Rebbe. In every area of his life, you saw his iskashus to the Rebbe. Whether it was in business, in community work, in personal, family, whatever it was, in every area you see his strong connection to the Rebbe. Well, as we know, he was a businessman, he went to work every day. Yet when he came home at the end of the day, he never heard about the going-ons in business during the day. What he was excited to share about was the miftzayim part that he did during the business. Someone walked into the office, I put on tefillin or gave him a mezuzah. A Chassidish Yid walked in, he gave the Chazar a vart from the Rebbe. He was always proud to tell us about these moments that took place in work. He never allowed that the business that he should come fully absorbed in the business. So there's the story which I've heard from him a number of times, that there was this chassid who worked in a galoshin factory, and he once came to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said that to one of the previous Rebbeim, and the Rebbe said that I've seen feet in galoshin, but I've never seen a head in galoshin. When someone who works with galoshins, which is the rubber boots you put on, so if you work with that and that's your entire life, you're totally absorbed in that, then your head becomes in the shoes. And he never allowed himself to have his head in the galoshin. And I remember there was some of my cousins or other people that wanted to go into business, and he told them this exactly there. He says to go into business is not a wrong thing, but you have to know what's the main thing and you have to stay focused. You have to remember that the main thing is not to put your head into the business, to do the business to the fullest extent, but at the same time to remember to stay focused, that we're Chassidim of the Rebbe, and stay connected. At home as well, you're able to see, it was a house we grew up with tremendous achnas sarchim all the time. By the Shabbos table, we were able to see very clearly how he gave that personal attention to every individual that was there.
and each one on their level, and he encouraged them all to share words of Torah, Divrei Torah by the Shabbos table, and encouraged them to connect the Parsha with Mashiach. His devotion to the family was tremendous. Be able to see it as a young kid, I was able to see it, the connection that he had with each and every one of us, always helping us out to reach our potentials. And this was all which we were able to see throughout all the areas where he encouraged us, was to become Chassidim from the Rebbe, to become a kusha, to do what the Rebbe wants. That was his greatest desire, is that we should be connected to the Rebbe and do what the Rebbe wants from us. You can see himself in his own life, he was involved in almost every mitzvah that the Rebbe came out with. He was totally involved. And I would mention that tonight, actually, his oldest Einakol is actually traveling, moving on shluchus, and he's right now en route to Northern California to open up a Chabadas over there. And there's no doubt this is a tremendous nachas for him, and Shai should have tremendous hatzlacha. Another point that is worthy to mention, that no matter what his personal challenges were in life, he never burdened the mishpacha, the children. He always wanted that we should continue learning in yeshiva, we should continue doing whatever it is, whether it's shlichus, yeshiva, we should continue doing our things. We should not be burdened by his challenges. And I must say that my mother was there throughout all the years on his side, helped him out with this, and covered up for him in the best way that really we didn't even know what was going on most of the time. And if we did know, was the minimal as possible. He did not want it to distract us from our work and our doing our job. We find ourselves now during the 3 weeks, which we know that Rebbe always kach, that during the 3 weeks, even though it's a time of mourning for the Beis HaMikdash, but through limud, when we learn about the Beis HaMikdash, we can accomplish the building of the Beis HaMikdash. And every year, we took out the Hilchos Beis HaBchira, and we always learned it and discussed it, and he learned it with the greatest passion, with the highest, because he knew Mashiach is coming. By learning about Mashiach, we are going to have Mashiach. And he believed in it because he was a real believer. He believed in the coming of Mashiach, and like I said, especially now in the 3 weeks that he always, all of us, we learn about the Binyan Beis HaMikdash. We should be zeichet to have the Skalas Melech HaMashiach with the Binyan Beis HaMikdash HaShlishi b'Karev Mamish now.
We see that everyone is very patient, so we're going to have one more speaker tonight. And after this, we encourage everyone can stay and share. There's many more stories that people have to share, and we would love to hear, and we would love to share. So I'm going to call my older brother Nehemiah to please come up and share with us.
Just want to mention the obvious Olam Hafuch, that we're not just having a yard site for 10 years, but actually having it in a shul that was dedicated to Nassan's memory. It's obviously quite strange. I wonder a lot of times, where the kayak comes for my mother and for the whole family and for all our friends and support of the friendship of the family and friends. There's a quality of life that we've heard, and those that knew my father, our father knows, that he had a quality of emunah. And I used to think, what's the big deal when you say a person has emunah? But recently, I saw in the Yud Beis Tammuz story from the Frierdiker Rebbe where somewhere there's a line there where the Frierdiker Rebbe says that I asked the Eibishter that I should be able to be strong enough to have strong emunah to get me through this. So emunah is, the Frierdiker Rebbe is asking for a bracha to have emunah. It's a quality of life to be able to live every single moment of life with emunah. A strange thing that I was just thinking about, remembering from 10 years ago, that it was Nifter, it was a Monday night, and it was Bein HaShmashes. And during Shiva it became a question of what day is the yard site. Was it Chavches or Chavtes? Because he passed away, it was Bein HaShmashes. And I remember we spoke to the different Rabbanim, and the Rabbanim basically themselves talking was a Shaila, Svaras Lakan and Svaras Lakan. And Lepoil, there was a Shaila Satruvis from the Munkach Rebbe that Paskins that when it comes the end of life, and if there's a Shaila of making the date for the person one day less or one day more, you give the person one day more life in this world. Because every moment being on this world, there's something that's being accomplished, every moment being here. And I was thinking about this, of the quality of life that he lived, that every moment was a special, special moment. And he cherished every moment in his Avodas Hashem in all the areas. Talking about something from the Munkach, as was mentioned before, about his learning. So I mentioned two things about the learning that I think is worthwhile to mention. First of all, there's a story that the Frierdiker Rebbe mentions. I think it was about the Rebbe Rashab, that there was another Rosh Yeshiva from another yeshiva once that came to the Rebbe Rashab and asked, what's so special about the Lubavitcher Bachrim that they learn in Tev? What's so special about the way they learn? We also have yeshivas. And the Rebbe Rashab said that by us, the Tmimim, they have a Kviyas Itim La Torah. They have a Kavod Kviyas when they learn. So he said back, okay, it's very nice to have a Kviyas Itim. You think our Bachrim don't have a Kviyas Itim? They also have a Kviyas Itim La Torah. So he said to him, by you the Bachrim have a Kviyas Itim Begufam. By us it's a Kviyas Itim Benishmasam. Which is basically saying that it's a Kviyas Itim, that it's not about the amount of learning, but it's the quality learning that takes you through, and you just live what you learn. There was many of us know that a lot of days in work, when there was a quiet day or quiet hours, and he had a little bit of time to learn, so he used to learn. So he took some Sfarim, he always had some Sfarim at his office, and one day Munkacher Chassid came to do business with him, and he asked him, what kind of Chassid are you? And the guy said, I'm a Munkacher Chassid. So he said to me, he says, I just read in the Rebbe's Igros, just came out a new Chelik, and I was just reading there, and there's a letter there that a Munkacher Chassid writes to the Rebbe that he needs a bracha for children. And the Rebbe writes to this guy that since you're a Munkacher Chassid, you should be Metzayer in your mind the image of your Rebbe, and this will be